So hello, everyone. It's Michael Jacob with Unleashing
Yeah.
Intuition Secrets. We got 𝐸𝐻𝐶 with us once again. He has a lot to share, as he always does, and we're going to jump in. Juan, thanks for joining me.
Hey, good to see you there, bro.
Excellent. So you've been on a little tear lately. So what do you have to offer for us?
Well, I mean, I've been, this last weekend. I don't know if you heard about it or not. I had a bunch of folks in to Vegas that are running for Secretary of State in various states, and we had a kind of a summit and had some just fantastic folks that showed up. There was about 40 of us, and we had a really interesting meeting. It was outstanding, and getting ready to go back at these states where the mischief has occurred in how they conduct the votes. And sometimes the Secretary of State is such a key position.
It's like we're getting a little interference there. It's kind of in and out. So looks like he's trying to come back in. There we go. I got a visual on you. No sound yet.
I haven't touched the thing yet. Let me see if I can come up with a different internet connection here for you, Michael.
Okay.
If that's an issue, because it popped out, and so I'll call you right back.
All right, sounds good.
All right. Bye. What the issue was.
So sometimes when you come into a new place, you got to get the internet just right. So you just popped into a new place, it's traveling. So tries to set up really quick, and sometimes it doesn't always come through good. That's right. I'll be back. So popping out, popping back in. He's a traveling man. See, he's got his boots on. You guys got your boots on? I almost put my boots on today just to have fun with it. The shit kickers. And because we need some shit kicking going on right now, don't we? Oh, yeah. So I think in the future that as we start to expose more things, because the exposure, I believe, is happening on a level that's unprecedented right now. And having guys like Juan with his background, because for me, being 24 years in the SEAL teams at highest level, SEAL Team 6 and combat action, and then going into the CIA for 11 years and going to combat zones all over the place. It was kind of having been a operator, someone that's actually, doing the missions, and then being on the other side and putting the operations together that the guys would go do. That was really cool. So I got a bigger picture of it, and I was able to, add a lot to that. And I think because of that, there was a lot of baddies that went down when I was in the CIA. Having a little piece, of that action and being part of that was outstanding. So when I have, Juan on as a guest, I have some deep knowledge of a lot of stuff. Juan is layered deeper and deeper and deeper. It's I don't have access to what he has access to, but every time he comes in on a show, he shares unprecedented amounts of information. So hopefully we can get it back. Not then, we'll try and reschedule this for another time. So maybe he's getting another internet, maybe break out another computer. I have this on occasion where I'll come in and I'll set up a computer and it won't even work. I always have a backup. So that's one of the things that, as an operator, you always had a backup to a backup. And there were sometimes we'd have like 3. It was like insane. 3 levels of communication because we had to have that. When you're dealing with, crypto, basically your all your communications are encrypted. It's quite hard to get some of this stuff to operate. And it looks like he's coming back in. Hopefully we can get the show going. All right, sir. He's connecting to the audio. So hopefully we can make it happen. There we go. We got you on audio again.
All right. There we
that's
go.
much
How's
clearer.
that?
Yeah, that's better.
All right. Yeah.
That's worth the wait.
Thought I had it on the Wi-Fi, and I didn't, and so I rocketed in. I thought it just automatically went onto it. It didn't. But I guess I've been gone too long.
Excellent. I was just thinking about it. Maybe the next time you have the show, I'll have my boots on, and we'll just kind of make that the theme. So we'll have everybody else have their boots on. That's watching the show.
Well, I was looking down on Reno when I flew over to about an hour and a half ago, and I was thinking, gosh, I got to drop in on you, and we'll have to do a show together. In fact, Joey Gilbert, the attorney there, has got some something great going on out there on the 15th. And unfortunately, I'm going to be preoccupied down in Texas on something. I'm doing a private showing of the Sound of Freedom with 𝐂𝐚𝐭𝐬𝐿. He and I are going down there, and
very good.
We're doing that. We're locking in the money that we need for the marketing side of the movie.
Sweet.
Yeah, so we can do a fall release. So, but somewhere in here, I'll darken your door up there, and we'll go see if we can find a good steak somewhere.
Oh yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, you treated me in Vegas, so that was one of the best steaks I've ever had. So good. It'll be my treat.
Well, I'm sure they got good stuff up there too. I'll bet you can find something if
I get you. Reno's got some good places. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's Robert David Steele's going to be there in Nevada on the 15th too. I'm looking at hooking up with him and doing something there, and then maybe actually traveling with him a little bit. So that'll be fun. The Unrigged tour.
Well, and Robert and I were just talking a little bit ago, and what he's doing is a very important thing, and I'm going to be supporting that. I feel it's very important for people to meet folks like you firsthand, the sheriffs that are traveling with them, some of the other people that are running for office and currently in office, and those you can't really appreciate just how important those in-person conversations are with folks, and kind of get a feel for how they say things. It's not just what people say, even little things in how they say it help you kind of get a better feel for where they're at, what needs to be done, how to do it best. There's some people that they just want to come off the rails, and you just can't get to real workable solutions, and because they're ranting, but the ranting isn't resolving itself down to, okay, and here's exactly what we're going to do, and how we're going to do it. And so the other side wins just because we can't get traction. You hit the gas, full throttle, never get out of the freaking mud bog. So you gotta, find ways, how you going to actually get traction, get out of this hole we're in. It's just like the meetings I had this last weekend with all the folks running for Secretary of State around the country, and then working as a group. One of the key things there is you're going to have to go to paper ballots. We cannot do this again. We've been fighting this electronic thing for 2.5 decades, and it's just bullshit. The fact of the matter is that they're spending so much money and so much time trying to resolve what actually happened, hidden inside all this software and the machines and everything else. The machines were designed to cook the vote.
Oh yeah.
That's why the intelligence agencies were on them in the beginning, so they could steal the vote and put in leaders they wanted in these other countries, like these people had a free vote. And people think, well, we're just going to fix the machine. You can't fix the stupid machine.
Yeah,
it's already fixed.
It's rigged. Yeah. You have to unrig that. That's right.
Yeah. The only way to unrig the thing look, it's 65 floors from the top of the Trump in Vegas. I'm willing to go over there. They're doing a construction site next door. We can launch those Dominion voting machines off the roof. Did you ever do those water balloons when you're a kid to take the surgical stuff, and you take a grandma's strainer, and you put the water balloon in there, and you hook it onto the surgery, and you can launch those fucking balloons. I mean,
that's what we need to do with those Dominion machines.
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's
they're
right.
they're good for that. That's the only
video.
thing they're good for.
Because they got that construction site right there. Yep. I could hit. It could be so much fun. We could have a blast with those stupid things, because that's all they are, as boat anchors around our life. And so we need to go. We need to go deal with them accordingly. And
agreed.
After we've tried to figure out what they did inside of them. One of the things, a certain operating system was found inside also, of the Dominion machines. One of the things is they open the machine up, and then you look at the board, and of course it's all considered to be proprietary. And so we're supposed to have a free vote with hidden mechanisms and certain ways that they do it that we can't actually see, because it's proprietary to the people that own the Dominion machine. So then you can't actually see what's going on. You pop it open, you look at it, and you go, well, what the hell's that? Oh yeah, that's a Bluetooth. Well, they're not supposed to be hooked up to the internet. No, I don't. That's probably for other applications. It's on the board, but we don't actually use that in this machine. It's just there because we get the boards cheaper when they have that on there. Do not look at the man. Do not look at the chip behind the green curtain.
Exactly. In Arizona right now, they can't come up with the routers or the passcodes, for those Dominion machines. So there's definitely some silliness going on there.
Well, and of course, Biden people are being lobbied to come in and bring the feds in and shut the whole thing down, because it's, somehow it's wrong to try to figure out what happened with the vote and what's going on. And of course, we know what actually happened. It's just about continuing the cover up. And, these people that are acting like we're somehow doing something wrong, revisiting what happened in that vote. Okay, so let's just think about this for a second, Michael. Even if we said, no, we're not going to turn anything around from 2020, but with all the concern of what happened and back and forth, and even having to do the recount and everything else, let me ask you this. Wouldn't it make sense, now that the vote's over and it's done and Biden is president, wouldn't it make kind of sense, if there's people that are concerned, that we go in forensically and just prove beyond any doubt, nope, it was all fair, and let's rip those fucking machines apart, every last part and piece. Let's just lay them all out on a great big table. We get the picnic table out there, and we'll just get all the stuff out there, and all these genius computer guys can look at it and go, hey, what's that?
I'm just surprised you haven't burned all that stuff. Like that movie, The Last Emperor, where he asked the monks that were in charge of his little forbidden city there, what can I see the books for the last 1,000 years? And they burned the temple. So yeah, I'm surprised they haven't burned this stuff. I'm glad they haven't. Somebody's keeping a good eye on it, so that hopefully it continues.
Well, I mean, that's part of the whole point. If the feds come in, they're going to confiscate all this stuff. One of the things I think I might have mentioned it even on your show or somewhere out there, down in Arkansas, when we were complaining at outer space about what was going on with the drug running out of South America coming in through the South there, and the Memphis Mafia was running all that stuff with CIA supervision. Stuff like MENA, which for all that MENA is this one place there, you don't realize that you just look right on down the runway and keep looking, and out in the distance, you know what that is? That's the largest military base in the continental U.S.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's in Oklahoma. It's not in Arkansas. Yeah, but it's right there. So who's not paying attention to the flights? You know, the guys are communicating on these aircraft coming in like it's not being seen by the military right there, monitoring everything in the airspace. Bullshit. Anyway, so they called the Senate Banking Committee, I believe it was at the time, because they have a lot of leverage. There's a lot going on there. And so they subpoenaed and wanted all the hard copy materials from all the various investigations that were going on. You had IRS down there, you had DEA, you had all the local policing agencies and state agencies. You had guns and everybody else, people, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms people.
Right.
You had
ATF,
multiple agencies, ATF, that had all sorts of data on what was going on the drug and money and everything else coming through Arkansas. And by the way, anybody that thinks that was just a bunch of riffraff, do you know where the largest brokerage firm in the world outside of New York was located? Little Rock, Arkansas. It's not Germany. It's not City of London. It's not Tokyo. It's Little Rock, Arkansas. Yeah, the largest off Wall Street brokerage firm in the world.
Incredible.
Yeah, and you know, we got guys there that are, you know, it all goes back to ADFA, Arkansas Development Finance Authority, and all the various similar finance authorities in the various states. And the money laundering, that was the black bag money that was going on for a lot of the mischief that's going on even today with all the payoffs and these political operations related to the drugs related to these three-letter agencies and their bullshit, not just here in the U.S., but around the world. MI6, worst of the worst, Mossad, etc. So coming back full circle, the Senate Banking Oversight Committee wanted to have hearings on all of what was going on down there when we're during Whitewater and we're looking at who's been up to what mischief. So they subpoenaed all the original hard copy evidence. Well, when you testify, you have to have the original hard copy material so that you can testify from original stuff, your notes and things like that, the records that you generated. And so all the various investigators at all the various federal and state agencies and county agencies were required to turn in all their original notes and material. The tail numbers on all the aircraft that were running the drugs for all the big companies, names that you would recognize instantly, and the players that were involved here. Very big players. I don't feel like getting a lawsuit this week, so I won't mention them because they were never convicted. But you know, I mean,
but someday they're going to be exposed. It's soon coming.
Well, I've said it before. It's out there if you want to go find it. But you know, they'd be very whiny and damage their advertising campaign. It's easy to be a bazillionaire when you get loans of money and you don't have to pay interest on it and you don't have to pay tax on it. You know, when you get a loan,
crazy, you
don't pay taxes on the loan. So these corporations are bringing in their laundered drug money. They're buying bonds for these development bonds for state of Arkansas, and they're loaning the money in for, you know, they're buying the bonds from out of the country with their drug money from all these island locations, and then the governors of these states loan them back their money. But now it's laundered, it's clean, it's clear, and it's a development bond, and so you can go build all the freaking whatever hooches you want to grow whatever you want to grow. You can build airports and airplanes and fly stuff in from the other side of the world, have it cost 5 times what it would cost for anybody else. Doesn't matter because you aren't paying for all that. And by the way, when you get a loan and then you never pay it back, you don't pay interest on a loan. You pay interest on your profits. So they're getting all this money and they never pay any of it back. ADFA wasn't getting any money back. Neither was Nebraska, Kentucky, all these other kind of states. Their development finance loans were never getting paid back. It was just free cash. You and I
Mhm.
can't get by like that, but they can. It's not a fair. Well, how are these corporations getting all this money to do all this shit? Well, what do you think they're doing? They're getting it for free. And
Yeah.
there's a collusion. It's not the government doing it, but there's people colluding inside the government that are
Mhm.
looking the other way. So
And
all the
some of these
hard,
corporations, as you and I know very, very well, are just fronts. They don't even care if they make money up
oh,
front because they're just laundering money and other things through
totally
them.
fronts, totally fronts. I
Mhm.
mean, well, all the big ones that we even talk about all the time. Zuckerberg didn't invent Facebook. Go sue me, fucking Zuckerberg. You
Exactly.
kidding me?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
let's have that
Absolutely.
conversation. Let's have that
Mhm.
discovery. Okay. You know, so anyway, they get all the hard copy from all the various investigative agencies and they ship it all over there to Oklahoma City. It's
Mm,
all sitting there. It's the federal facility there at the Murrah building,
mm.
and it's waiting to be shipped to Washington, D.C., but they get it in one place. Well, it wasn't in one place in Arkansas. You couldn't find a place in Arkansas, just put on the plane, fly it to D.C. No, we got to put it over there next door in Oklahoma. It's right over there, just across the border, just like the military base. And then they turn around, and while it's sitting there waiting to be shipped by whatever means necessary up to Washington, D.C. for the hearings that are going to happen, kaboom! What happened to all the evidence? Oh, yeah. What horrible timing. That's so sad.
It's amazing.
So all the evidence goes
What
up
a
in smoke.
coincidence, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
And now all the guys can't testify and all that. So anyway, that's the kind of mischief that happens out over time. Now, I will tell you this right now, even today, amazingly, a lot of stuff has been collected and it didn't get blown up when they wanted it to.
Oh, yeah.
It's a miracle.
And
There's some people out there that might
Mhm.
think everything's all over, and you think about these voting machines and it's all digital and everything else. One thing about stealing the vote digitally is that when you're transferring the data all over Kingdom Come, all over the planet, there's good guys that track that stuff and bad guys, but sometimes the good guys are watching when the bad guys do all the transferring, and we have really good data that we get on exactly who is involved. And then you have actual real guys, sometimes they're in the right place to observe it
Mhm.
and be part of it even,
Right.
and be able to testify firsthand, as well as
Mhm.
the digital forensic data.
Now
And then
that human intelligence that you're talking about is very, very valuable. It's even more valuable, I think, than the actual, like, video evidence and so forth. Because I and you can have a lot of information inside us that we don't share anywhere else, but when it's time, it comes
oh,
out. And so
yeah, there's some people about to have a very bad day.
Mhm.
So you look at that whole situation down there in Arizona, and they want to come in there and they want to take all the stuff, and some feds show up and some Biden people show up, and they're going to stop this whole thing in its tracks. Now, the one thing that's happening, by the way, so they're talking about having to shut this down in a few days, that it's going to be all over with, but yet they're not getting cooperation on completing some of the stuff. They can't find some critical things. So uh, what the deal is, they have like some 3-day event or 4-day event there in the Coliseum where it's being counted.
Mhm.
And so would they continue the counting in another room, consolidate things, or just move them aside and then come back in a few days and restart and keep going with the count? And so there's these questions out there, how this is going to go. The drama isn't over. It actually is supposed to be originally in the original contract, as I recall, it was 60 days or something,
Mm.
which based on when they started the count mid-April would amazingly, with the pause of a few days, potentially end up being just about the 21st or so of June, which is the longest day in the year.
Mm.
Dark to light.
Interesting.
So we're having a little bit of fun out here. And by the way, as far as guys, Pat Byrne and I got a chance to spend some time together over the weekend, and this whole situation where he was involved in his part where they were trying to do this setup on the Russia investigation and find all the ways that President Trump, when he was still candidate Trump, was somehow colluding with the Russians in this Maria Butina situation. This very nice gal, very pro Americans, U.S., was in this very difficult catch-22 situation. And, Pat's written about it, talked about it pretty extensively, but there's still stuff that has not been made public. And the reality is, I think Pat's about to have some fun exposing some of these people. You know what's about to happen and what's been happening? Have you noticed how over and over, just like I said, over the last couple of months, it's like Biden goes out somewhere in public, like gonna go get on to an aircraft that he's going somewhere on, and he gets on the aircraft and flies somewhere, and everybody points out, "Hey, I don't think he's got his pants on." What are you talking about? It's not Air Force One. They're pantsing him right there in plain sight. It's not Air Force One. He's the president of the United States. Well, he might be president of Congress as far as Congress is concerned. He might be president as far as the courts are concerned. But somebody over where the military decides to make designations of aircraft in the air, somebody isn't pushing the right button. Somebody isn't punching in the right letters. Isn't that Air Force One? No. Remember when Biden showed up for the inauguration that nobody could go to? Okay. He flew in on a private aircraft. Think about this. The other day, he's climbing on the plane, and I saw one of these spoofs. It was hysterical, where he's tripping up the stairs. He trips. Somebody had done a spoof. He tripped like 3 or 4 times. And so he has Trump out in the golf course. He's hitting the ball. He goes wailing out there. It's Biden on the head. It was so funny. I just laughed.
That one. That was a good one.
Oh my gosh, that was funny. And then Biden would get back up and he'd go up another step or two and he'd trip, and going into the airplane. So then, okay, so the guy can't walk up the stairs. Okay, well, he's a little challenged, whatever. That's fine. But then, just a few days later, Biden is again climbing up. They should put him on a freaking forklift thing, with like a pallet on it, and a handrail around it, and just lift him up to the side of the plane, right? No, Mr. President, just stand right here. We'll take care of it. So what do? And they actually have like 2 Marine guards, one on each side, just to hold him steady so he won't trip while he's being lifted up to the top of the plane, keep the chain, across, like one of the kiddie rides at Disney or something. But anyway, he's going over to get on the aircraft, not Air Force One. He's going, he could be getting onto a Sopwith Camel. He could be going hang gliding. He could be freaking kite surfing behind the boat. It would be Air Force One if he was the president as far as the military was concerned. But he's going up the steps, but this time to show how strong and resilient he is and how tough he is. Right. You think, because we got to compete. Biden, he's out there riding bareback on lions, through the jungle, throwing spears at the natives back, he's catching their spears and throwing them back at him, So we got to show our president's just as tough as the commies, okay? So Biden is carrying his own suitcase and his own umbrella up the stairs to get into the aircraft. Did you see that? That's just right after he couldn't climb up the stairs normally. Now he's got to carry his own suitcase umbrella to show us how strong and tough he is.
Yeah, I used to love those videos of Putin, riding bareback, like, he's like hunting and, he's out in the boats and everything. And then after a while, Obama had to start hitting him because they were like, making fun of Obama. And now Biden can't keep up either.
Well, the thing is that those are not normal protocols. One of the ones I mentioned the other day too on a couple of shows, when he went to go out to his car, to the Beast. And so he's walking out there, and here's this guy. He's not even wearing decent Florsheim shoes, let alone a nice bit and polished black leather shoe, which is normal. This guy is supposed to be his Secret Service security detail. So he's walking along in his brown Walmart loafers, all scuffed up. And they're walking out to the Beast. Now, the protocol is, part of the reason, like with the suitcase and the umbrella, it's not just that you don't want the president to look like he's, the salesman for Watkins, products or something. Hi, would you like to buy some vanilla? Here's a brush. Would you like to buy one of those? You don't want the president looking like that. He's got all the world leaders are watching. So, he doesn't carry his own bag onto the plane. They don't have a luggage compartment. I check my luggage at the Franken thing when I'm going on the plane normally. So he's got to carry his own luggage. And what about the umbrella? You've never seen like a Marine Guard or Secret Service holding the umbrella? Part of the reason for that is it's a safety issue. In case of an attack, in case of an event, they don't want the president encumbered. They want him to be able to rapidly, smoothly get to a safe location. So he's walking out to the Beast. And the door on the Beast is closed. There's no guy on the door. The guy that's running the front passenger seat is usually the guy there at the door. His whole entire job is to make sure that the door is open long before the president gets there. And then once the president's inside, the door is closed properly. And by the way, if you remember, like when Reagan was shot, the door's open, the guys are all right there. They pick the president up, like a duffel bag and throw him in the car and land on top of him to make sure he's protected from any bullets flying in the air. The door has to be open. Seconds count. If the president's standing there waiting for him to get the door open, fumbling while the bullets are flying, he might get hit 3 more times, 10 times. If somebody's got an automatic while you're fumbling with the door. Biden's walking out there. Nobody's at the door. Nobody's got the door open. He's with the guy with the Franken Walmart scuffed up shoes, brown, walking out to the car, waiting for somebody to get the door open. Okay. Hello. Nobody that's in the industry has ever seen anything like it. And by the way, governments around the world, if the president has a sniffle and he's rubbing his nose for a second, there's 10 analysts looking at every angle. Does he have a flu? Does he have a cold? Does he have COVID? Has he got cancer? Is he dying? Is there something in the air? What's going on? They're trying to figure out why the president had a sniffle. And is it going to affect some policy? Is it going to affect what's going on in the world somehow? So, when the president is struggling, he's not going upstairs right there. He's carrying his own bags. Nobody's opening the door. Governments around the world, militaries, intelligence agencies, analysts are all trying to figure out what in the world is going on here in America. And who's really in charge. Now, you've probably heard it too. So I'm not speaking out of school completely, but there's been a bit of a scuttlebutt about, and it's been pretty widely discussed. So we'll just discuss it for a second. What the fuck just happened over at the Pentagon a few weeks ago?
I heard about that.
Yeah. So, and then, there's a few variations on the story. And so let's just talk hypothetically for a minute, because we want to stay in the hypothetical zone. If there's some pushback back and forth within the military ranks in the general staff or in the flag officers, general staff being generals. Okay. Flag officers being admirals and, high-ranking officers in both locations. Because, if you're a general or an admiral, you've got a loyal crew that tends to go with you. And if guys don't like the guy they're with, they're looking for a way to, get to somebody else's staff. So tend to have people that are loyal to you that build around you. So if you have guys going one way or the other, they usually follow, in their chain of command. And so the question is there some division there within the general staff or the flag officers? And these types of stories are getting a little more frequent. Now, as I've explained to your audience and other audiences, what's part of what's going on here? The Congress certified, and of course you remember famously how we had people, shutting down their subscription to Michael because one said that Biden was going to be president. You remember that? Oh my gosh, they freaking just about stripped a gear. And I said, Biden's going to be president. Okay. And, get over it, get a clue. So yes, Congress certified Biden's president. The courts agreed. A crooked Congress says Biden's president. They don't want to look at the vote, see no evil, hear no evil, say no evil. The courts, nope, we're not going to look at this stuff. Not because they looked at the data. This is where people are mistaken. Because they didn't want to see it. They said there's no standing. They said, now these states, they can't go with Texas because they don't have standing, doesn't allow for it. Through all these legal maneuvers, the case never actually gets heard on the merits of the vote fraud or the deception, this digital Pearl Harbor, an attack on America by another means, another method, digitally. Instead of with nuclear weapons, you take control of the country by taking control of its government with your Manchurian candidates. Well, the issue, and I explained it to your audience previously, but think about in this current moment, this current light. Always the military defers to civilian authority, civilian command. And so it's there, to protect the Constitution and the Republic, the Constitution being the contract with the American people, and the Republic being the nation of states, this union of states that makes us strong. And so what happens is that we have a military that is stepping aside, letting all the civilians do their thing, and whoever they've elected, whoever they say this is the person that we want to be president, commander in chief, okay, well, then he's in command. The problem is, what people have failed to grasp is that the military does not act. Their protocols are not to act while the civilian government is supposed to be acting, unless something bad happens, like they're not, maybe under command. It's a Manchurian candidate situation, a captured situation somehow. So as long as the Congress and the courts had options to look at the vote and call something in if something wasn't going right, the military is just standing by. On January 19th of 2021, the Director of National Intelligence presented a report on election interference in the previous election from November 3rd. Only problem was that report was like 33 days old. The report was supposed to be presented on the 18th of December, 45 days after the election, but they didn't do that. They had a little internal scuffle or disagreement, so they didn't present the report on time. Didn't get presented till the day before the presidency is supposed to be handed off to the new elected person, Trump for second term, or in this case, it was going to be Biden. And then you have less than 24 hours for Congress or the courts to look at what's there, say, well, looks like there could have been some interference, some fraud, some scamming, and slow it down, pause, or do something. Instead, it was full steam ahead. Now, the military has no investigative angle to come in and do anything related to the vote up to that moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
Then what happened was when they swore Biden in, a crooked Congress and the courts swore Biden in as the president and said, now hand over the authorities for the operation of the military and the nuclear keys to Biden. The military went, hold on. Is there a problem here? Because we also are privy to the report. It says there was foreign interference. We have all this stuff that's going on. And oh, by the way, I think we'll just hold tight for a minute because something doesn't seem right. And so, yeah, we're not going to pick up Biden with a military aircraft. He can come in on, one loan to him from one of his benefactors. And then when he gets there, they don't hand him the suitcase. All he gets is some Toys R Us colored plastic keys. Okay. Yeah, how you doing? Okay. And then I push which button. Okay. Yeah. So what you've been watching is the military has not, at the highest levels in a certain strata, not all of the military, but where it counts, at the very highest levels. Remember, Cheyenne Mountain, NORAD, Strategic Air Command are still locked up tight as a drum.
Wow.
Our Trident defenses locked up tight as a drum. The reality is that what we're really seeing here is we're seeing a situation where there is some kind of a disagreement within the military on whether or not we should hand over the keys to Biden. Now, the military on January 20th, at the time that Biden was sworn, put his hands on the freaking, whatever it was that he did, because there's some questions of what was actually in there. So when he did that, and the military was required to hand over the keys to the new commander-in-chief, did that actually occur functionally? I mean, you can have the briefcase there. The briefcase is just a handshake. The briefcase doesn't actually do anything except allow for the generals who are, say somebody's firing missiles at America, sub-launch missiles are on their way in. The satellites detect heat signature that's consistent with aluminized rocket fuel. And now everybody goes red. And we're under attack. So fairly instantaneously, somebody's communicating with the briefcase and they're giving advisories. This is what we believe is going on. Here's what's at risk. Here's where it's pointed. What do you want us to do? And by the way, during the Clinton administration changed the rules and said, well, we'll absorb a first strike. And then we'll strike back, believing, that the missiles wouldn't be very accurate. And so, we didn't want to start World War IV, World War III. We already beat the Russians, the commies. We did it war by another means. Hey, you didn't get the memo? Think about what I'm just told you there, Michael. Almost nobody's caught this. The Soviet Union was defeated in a war, and we didn't fire nuclear missiles. The Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore. We fought World War III by another means. We took them out on multiple fronts, the last being on the ruble, and they don't exist anymore. The Russian people survived. A new government was constituted, but we won World War III. So we're in World War IV potentially right now, war by another means. And what is somebody trying to do with us? They've attacked us using methods by another means on multiple fronts. When we took down the Soviet Union, we did it on multiple fronts. One of them was we ran the price of oil down through our various partners so low, their biggest source of revenue was oil, that we collapsed their economy.
Right.
took all of their funds away. Then we went after them on the religious issues up there in the satellite states, and where they were being, extremely over the top on the way they ran their people on the religious issues, Jews, Catholics, Christians, the whole schmear. What was portrayed as the trade unions, which was also true. There was a big issue there. 𝐂𝐸𝐳 and that whole group of people up there in Poland. In fact, I just got to spend time with a doctor who grew up in Poland during that era and now is a pediatrician, just moved down to Florida from New York. Just a great person. We were talking about that whole era and what it was like. And so on the religious thing, the people were undermined from the inside. And there was a few other things that were done, but with the Afghanistan situation and getting them to throw arms and people into a war that could never win, and us supplying stuff surreptitiously that really taxed them again. And then finally, the ruble situation, and nobody counterfeited anybody's rubles. They just happened to have some generals that were greedy and sent rubles outside the country for hard currencies such as dollars, marks, yen, bola, etc. And then when there wasn't money to buy rubles anymore, well, we just sent rubles back. It was their rubles. Okay, we didn't do anything wrong. We just sent their rubles back. Kaboom!
Masterful. You always provide amazing insights.
Oh my
so
God.
The military side is very, very amazing, because you said you were coming in and say some stuff. So I can give you my background. I've been looking at the things that have been happening with Mr. Biden, and it doesn't match up like you're saying, as far as like there's no Air Force One and all these different things. He doesn't have a protection detail. I have been part of protection details a lot, and I can tell you that's a big red flag that he doesn't have one. So you just spelled it all out masterfully. Thank you.
Well, and then I was having my cookie, and it's really good.
Oh yeah, good. Glad to talk a little bit so you get that in. I know you like to run.
I didn't get to eat today, and I had to have a little bite to eat after.
Good.
You don't want me to fall over.
Get the blood sugar if you want to pass out.
Somebody made me a very nice cookie, a keto cookie, by the way.
Sweet.
So
very good.
But think about this, Jaco. You've got a situation where Biden's people, Biden himself, they've got to get control, rein this in somehow. There's ample evidence that a component of the Secret Service and a component of the military have not agreed to and backed Biden as the president of the United States functionally. Now, where people have to think about this, the president of the United States supervises, manages, he's the executive, like the CEO of a corporation, the day-to-day operations of the various government agencies, internal policing, FBI, Justice Department, the Treasury stuff, the banking, things like that, how the states are administering laws and what federal money is going to go to support which programs, and what, we as a nation need to work together and coordinate the states and the senators and everybody else to do whatever to work together to get something done. Okay. And so he's the CEO sitting at the head of the board table trying to figure this stuff out. That's not the same as commander-in-chief.
Mm-hmm.
The commander-in-chief is head of the military. Different hat. So you take one hat off and you put the other one off if the country's under attack or whatever. Michael, the country is under a digital attack, war by another means, and have been. The whole event leading up to the 11th re-election. And by the way, just like when we did what we did, think of what America's been under attack with. Multiple things. It's a big country. There's a lot going on. You're not going to knock it down with just one little thing. So what else you got cooking? COVID. That's big. It doesn't turn the world on its ear. The economic side as a result of that, and the political side. The chaos, the not knowing what's going on. Let me tell you one other thing. The other day, and you've probably seen it. In fact, I did a T-shirt, put it on my 107 Daily over there for people to get just for fun. And it was Strategic Air Command. They have a communication system. So what happened was, in this communication system, one of the guys had one of the devices, supposedly went home with it. It's, a classified device, and he sets it on the counter, and his little kid gets the device, and he's punching in random letters and numbers in the device. Okay. So I don't know, it could have been Biden. Okay. Random numbers going in and saying, oh, hey, does this launch anything? STRATCOM, hello? Anybody over there? Okay. What about this button? Huh? I can't find a place to put my keys. It's the twice arrest key. It's the purple one. Oh, yeah. Okay. Hold on. Which one's yo?
You're supposed to get pudding today. Where is it?
So everybody in the world, all the other governments in the world, look, the Chinese, the Russians, the Israelis, the Germans, the Brits, the fucking Brits, they're all watching everything that happens. So here, Strategic Air Command, our nuclear forces, over their open line that everybody gets to see, but it's still kind of a coded communication, comes this random group of letters. So some of the people watching this go, whoa, what's that all about? So they take the group of letters and they put it into these decoding tools, like somebody accidentally put an encoded message out over the open line. So they have these, Toys R Us decoding tools that come up with the most obvious likely answer. And the first answer that comes out of the decoding tool, Q acquitted. That's the most likely answer. Q acquitted. Okay, half hour later, STRATCOM comes out. Oh, excuse me. We accidentally let somebody's kid play with the device, and they punch those numbers. Ignore the man behind the curtain. Ignore what just happened. Nothing relevant. Okay, so now move forward. That got everybody's attention, paying attention to that. Okay, think about what happened next. Just like going up the stairs, and he's tripping up the stairs, and then a few days later, now he's got to carry his suitcase up to show us all how good shape he's in. That little event over at STRATCOM got the whole world aware that, STRATCOM was in the news and more people are paying attention. So the next thing that comes out a few days later was a advisory. And the advisory says, don't expect a linear response from an enemy who may feel threatened if they believe it's the only way to save as much life as possible and to protect their position. Now, most people read that as though, Ukraine and everybody's pushing on the Russians. The Russians had this huge buildup, bigger than back in 2014. They had this huge buildup over there on the border of Russia. And Putin had, brought everybody in. They're having this huge thing. Supposedly just a training exercise, but it's huge. What people didn't catch was this. It wasn't a warning that the Russians might nuke somebody if they felt threatened. They didn't feel threatened. We weren't doing anything. They're the ones doing stuff. Hello. U.S. forces are not coordinating and cooperating with the NATO forces right now at many levels. And there's this sense in various governments around the world, including over there with Putin, that maybe we aren't paying close enough attention. Maybe we're in a little turmoil, a little disarray here, because our general staff and flag officers might have a little bit of confusion going on, and there's no president. We might be a headless creature here. We might have been decapitated because our government's divided right now. So maybe this is a good time for a little adventure into the Ukraine. The real warning, we're usually fairly predictable. It may not sound like we're that predictable, but the reality is, we're not going to nuclear war lightly. We don't want to do that sort of thing. And so most people think of America, and we're fairly linear. It's a smooth road up. It's a smooth, predictable road down. It might go up a little more or a little less, but it's fairly predictable. It's fairly linear. The Stratcom communication was, do not expect a linear response. If you think that our forces are not going to be able to act, that the people that actually have the control to push the button, turn the key, will not act if they're actually for real pushed up against the wall, don't expect a linear response. We will use a tactical nuke, and it talks specifically about tactical nukes.
Wow.
If needed, if we're pushed. You know what that was? That was somebody getting a message to Putin and everybody else and the Chinese. We got stuff going on all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
You think you can mess with us right now because we're in a decapitated position and our president isn't actually got control of our military? Don't expect a linear response. You push us, we'll push back, and it won't be what you expect. Who's in control of the nuclear arsenal? What did Nancy want to do shortly after Biden entered the presidency? She said she wanted to pull control of the nuclear command forces under the direct authority of the Congress. Now, why would she want to do that at exactly that time? Is it because Biden wasn't fully in control, or couldn't be depended on, or a Harris might not be able to, or Michael, because they were trying to force the military's hand?
Oh, yeah.
Is that what was really going on? Because people in the upper reaches in the command of the nuclear forces, this upper strata, a very precise, specific strata of the military, commanding the nuclear arsenal and beyond, doesn't just end there, weren't under the control of Biden. And she was trying to come up with a legislative way to capture that control and force the hand of the people in the upper reaches of our military to hand over the keys.
She thought she might get somebody that's on the edge to come in and rescue that, and it didn't happen. So that's brilliant the way you put that out. Really.
Well, they thought that they could get the American people behind it, like it was somehow going to make us safer to have, a couple hundred Congress people that can't agree whether or not to, if you have a stream going down beside the sidewalk into the drain thing, is that a salmon spawning stream and we should regulate it and restrict fishing in the drainage ditches or something? They can't figure that out. They can't decide whether, they're going to spend, 50 million or 500 billion on transgender studies, for 4-year-olds. And you're going to get them in a time of war, the Chinese or the Russians or somebody else is doing some horrible thing. Well, I don't know if we should nuke them or not. I mean, they nuked Hawaii and LA, but I mean, that's not the whole country. I think it was an accident. And it might just be because they wanted to get some of the, trade lowered between those places or something, or increased. I don't know. They thought they were plowing ground. You can't get Congress to agree to that, and you're going to take the instantaneous control that is this hair trigger. The way the nuclear stuff has worked for a very long time is mutually assured destruction. You push the button and try to nuke us. We push the button and nuke you back. We both end up as losers. It's tic-tac-toe. Nobody wins. So you got this situation where all of a sudden Nancy's, the way we're going to fix this is we're going to get even more chaotic and confused, and the other side doesn't see an executive with will that's willing to do what has to be done in a critical moment. You know, where does that make sense anywhere in the world, especially the way that it's been played for a long time? That's a pretty big decision. You're not going to just turn it over in a few days with Nancy saying, yeah, we've got to take over this. You know, there was other stuff going on in the background. Where it counts, at the upper reaches, that upper strata of the military, they have not agreed that Biden was legally elected president of the United States, that they have not agreed that the foreign interference was not enough to change the outcome of the election. And so they did their own analysis, and it didn't start till January 20th, when Biden was sworn, even though Congress and even though the courts said, no, he's president. They weren't so free with their decision-making. And fortunately for America, fortunately for the world, because President of the United States controls a lot of stuff, money and everything else. Commander-in-Chief sends troops and weapons and can push the button in the right situation. The whole world is on the line, holding its breath for what's going to happen next. Mm-hmm. The military did not agree to go along with the result of this Pearl Harbor, this digital Pearl Harbor in America. And remember, you know, for example, Japan took the Philippines, and MacArthur had to yield and leave the country. And some of the things that happened in the Philippines, I mean, oh my gosh, I had a friend years ago that was, he passed away probably 25 years ago now, but he was there in the Philippines and became prisoner. Yeah. And it
had a
was
great
beyond horrible.
Death March, yep.
Yeah, it was just beyond comprehension. And yet we had to march back over time, get control, consolidate our position, go back and get the Philippines back. You know, if we lose within the Congress and the courts, we may have lost a lot of ground. Did we lose everything? And I would contend to you that that's the whole point. The military, even portions of the military, may have fallen under some convoluted, captured vote system, this digital Pearl Harbor against America, this war by another means. But fortunately, where it counts in the upper strata within our last line of defense, the most critical one, where the officers are sworn, vetted, think in a much different way. They didn't concede. And so what's happening now is that pushback is now starting to come back. Okay, you lost the Philippines. Well, it's not permanent. We're going back yet. You lost some portion of America. Well, it may not be as permanent as they'd like to say. They're screaming bloody murder. Watch what's going on over there in Maricopa County. These people want to come in and try to lock it down, close us off from the rest of that data, not provide stuff still. There's now discussions to get a recount, even in Clark County, where it still hasn't been agreed to, but we're not done. So how long does that march take? What's going to go on in the meantime? What revelations from insiders and digital data actually can still come to bear? What stuff from the guys that were working right there inside that may have put little landmines in there, these guys going to step on? And I just had some of those discussions over the last week. Those guys are about to come out. You know, there's an interesting thing. May 11th, that's 5 times 11, 55. I've said many times, 5 is the number of death to enemies and defense. That's why the Pentagon has 5 sides. It has an occult thing. 5 is the number of grace to God's people and redemption. It's silver, it's the cross, it's redeemed. We're coming up on a 5x5 moment. It'll be interesting to see what happens with some of these revelations. It's not over on a certain day. Let me ask you this. Okay. So a lot of people got all wound up, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you a question. When a president leaves office, is he still referred to as president, or is he now just another citizen, never referred to as president the rest of his life? He's just, is Trump still president?
President for life.
President for life. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Now Biden has been certified as president by the courts. Congress has agreed to this whole thing. So you got a president there, but you really have 2 presidents. It's just one is functionally over the corporation, the Fed side, the whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But if the military hasn't handed off, that's a different hat. That's commander in chief. So my question is Biden, while the courts and the Congress can say, he is commander in chief. He is commander in chief. He is. Look, he's got the keys. Pull the keys out. Biden, pull the keys out of your pocket now. Look at these. These are the Toys R Us keys we gave.
Toys R Us keys, yep.
Okay. Yeah. That one, he was chewing on that one. That one doesn't count. He's got big teeth. Usually those are made for like little kids where they gum it to death. Of course, he might be gumming it to death. I don't know. It's a little. Yeah, I think he was putting it in there. He's trying to turn it, and broke the key. But anyway, okay. So, is there some question if Biden is actually being accepted where it counts as commander in chief? And so now I come back to April 1st. I did all these bets. So I was with one of my guys who's actually general staff. And, his wife was like, well, I think it's time for you to pay off. And he tells her, he says, actually, I think he might have been right. That was the end of the discussion there. Okay. Yeah, and the reason is,
honesty, I love it.
Yeah. The reason is, think about it. I also talked quite extensively for quite some time a dual presidency. Mm-hmm. Do we have a dual presidency situation where part of the country, part of the government in this divided government moment is saying that Biden's president, and another part of our government in this upper strata is saying Trump won? Mm-hmm. And he should be referred to respectfully as President Trump, whether you believe it or not. He is President Trump. He is President Trump. Mm-hmm. But is he still supposed to be the guy that's commander in chief? And at what point, if the military, think about this, if the military didn't agree that the election was pulled off without interference, so then they do their own internal investigation. That started on January 20th. That's the way the Military Code of Justice is written. They do an investigation. They determine what exactly happened. Was there foreign interference? They take the stuff that was accumulated from the Department of Homeland Security, but then they add the extra touch of their own military intelligence that isn't even allowed in those areas, because the Department of Homeland Security does not control the nuclear defenses. They don't have a Department of Homeland nuclear security, okay? And that area where those investigations are done and that data, that last line of defense, that did not come under the scrutiny and get in those reports. And the military goes back and looks at all the other military intelligence that they may have on a situation like this. And at the end of it, if they concluded that there was foreign interference and it was sufficient to change the outcome of the election, and that there's a treasonous, traitorous component of those offices that certified and validated the vote over at Congress and the courts, then the military doesn't just stand neutral endlessly. The way that the military code of justice is written, they're required to first secure the Constitution, the contract with the American people, and the Republic, the security of the states. Then, as quickly as safely, reasonably possible, they restore lawful civilian authority to the position of commander-in-chief, commander in charge of all military forces. Now think about that. That's not the same as calling him president. It's just for the sake of running the military machine to recapture ground that was stolen from us, to protect the Constitution and Republic, that they recognize a commander-in-chief of military forces. They don't put that person in the presidency. They just they're strictly, solely who's running the military. And we don't do it as a banana republic. We don't run our country with generals. We're not a South American operation. If we don't like the way things go, a bunch of generals take over and they run the country. Or some one general comes in and becomes the guy that runs the country. The Military Code of Justice says that they have to pick that person that's the representative constitutionally of the military forces. So in this situation, think about this, Michael. If you have forensic data that shows in this digital Pearl Harbor that another government or group of governments or businesses or some James Bondsonian mastermind had cooked the election and stolen it and put somebody else in there as a Manchurian candidate. Could be a clone, could be, it could be computer generated at this point in time. We have, TV screen stuff that can generate images. You wouldn't know if you're seeing the real thing or not. Okay. At some advanced time, now or some point in the future, you might not even see anything that's real anywhere. Because you trust what's on the TV, so they generate any image they want, show it to you. You wouldn't know if it's actually Biden or, just a computer generated model. So if the military doesn't believe that whoever's at the suitcase, whoever's at the other end is real or is the correct, true elected representative of the American people, and if they think that they can come up forensically with the correct data that proves who is the elected person that the American people voted, then they would turn around and recognize that. Might have taken some time, but that's what they would do. That's what the Code of Justice says. But they don't just run it. They find that person. If they couldn't unscramble the egg, then they would turn around maybe and have to supervise a revote. It might be just in those places where the vote was most severely screwed up, maybe those 5 or 6 states where they did this huge vote fraud on the ballots and all that, if that was the case on the digital vote. But that would be kind of difficult. You'd probably have to do the whole country. But if you know what the outcome of the vote actually was before it was cooked, before the data was sent up through the satellite systems, downloaded, changed, and sent back through, downloaded back here on the vote machines and turned around. If you knew what it was before it was cooked, why would you do a revote? If you've got the forensic data and you've got the eyewitnesses, the people who were hands-on, no, it would be another crime to then force the country to go through a revote. Remember, while all this is going on, remember what happened in the Soviet Union that doesn't exist anymore because we killed it, shot it deader than a doornail? When they were in disarray, when their economy was toast, when the ruble was dropping in value, dropped 40% in a matter of months in the black market, when their leaders were getting accosted by their people because they just wanted to drink and feed their families. They were starving to death.
Yep.
And their industry wouldn't work. They couldn't build a toaster because you couldn't find the toaster cord. Oh, it's on a train going to Turkey, you know, for a few rubles for some mobsters. If America is convoluted, while you have that disarray, what happened back in the Bolshevik Revolution in the first place in the Soviet Union? The country went into some level of chaos, and when it came out the other side, it wasn't the good guys that people thought they were getting to get rid of the czar. It was an even worse crowd that was managing the chaos in the first place. These people that want to come save America from COVID, they want the chaos because they have a plan. The plan is they're going to destroy America because they want to build a global empire, and we're in the way. And if you got a leader that doesn't want to buy into this whole global thing, remember, Trump wasn't going along with all that green shit. And he wasn't going along with pulling the oil in from all over the world and keeping all those monsters happy in Saudi Arabia, the way they treat their women and kids. The slave owners in Qatar, that are buying and selling little kids. The people that are running the slave markets in Tripoli after Hillary laughed because Gaddafi, we saw he died. Okay, so then we opened up the slave bazaars in Tripoli again. Gaddafi didn't have slave bazaars.
Nope.
He stopped them. Okay, you can be mad at Gaddafi, but excuse me, no children being sold in downtown Tripoli. They are now. They are now. They are now. Your government made that happen. So, at this moment in time, Michael, I'm asking you, you've been around people, you've seen the stuff, you've been there, security details, you've seen how things work. Is there enough evidence for you yet that Biden is not being acknowledged readily, consistently to the world, let alone here in the United States, let alone to the American people, let alone, the media and everything else, let alone to the dog catcher, that he is actually functionally commander-in-chief, even if in word and deed even, they're acknowledging him as president. Do you think they're acknowledging him as commander-in-chief?
Absolutely not. And outright disrespecting him, in fact. And that's a signal. So I've been trying, I've masterfully done Juan again. I've been trying to put this out in a way that I can, but on our little break where you're getting your video back up line, I talked about how I know things on a, very deep level, from 35 years of background, being an operator and being on the other side, actually putting operations together in the intel side and so forth. Stuff on a far, far deeper level. And it just absolutely blows me away because with that, deeper level of knowledge, you're able to present something like this masterfully. So outstandingly done.
Well, let me ask you this. So if we're in a situation where a faction of the military has not relinquished the ground to him as commander-in-chief, and I got these huge bets out there. I'm I might have to use part of my car money to pay off all these bets. I might have to sell one of the Bentleys or something. So let me ask you this. I gotta, you think I need to sell one of the Bentley convertibles? Should I start paying off these bets, or do you think I might actually be found to have been exactly right? That first of all, President Trump is still President Trump. He will be President Trump as long as he lives. When he's gone, we will remember him always as President Trump, no matter what Nancy or any of the other fucked up mental cases of following her and the rest of them think. He's president of the United States. And by the way, they never impeached him, except functionally, he wasn't impeached where he's taken out of office. They did their little scam, and but it was based on lying evidence. So screw them all. So then the second question is, come April 1st, I said it on your show.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that voted for the Democratic candidate and that later became Biden, I said this for over a year before the election.
Right.
In my bets, I said, President Trump will still be president come April 1st. Well, he's still a president. And Biden, anybody that voted for Biden would be the fool. Now, I will yield ground and say that functionally, he wasn't recognized as president currently by Congress and the courts. But here's the sticky wicket. On some specific date, just prior to April 1st, did a section of the military, as a result of their investigation, which wasn't going to take years, took a specific period of time. And at the conclusion of that period of a certain number of weeks, did 45 at the proper 45 point, get read in on what exactly happened. And then we defer to you. And what's the sequence? Nothing must be done publicly. There's no requirement that if the military determines that a Manchurian candidate has been placed in position of authority or something's happened in the government, when they decide who the lawful commander-in-chief, the person who is the elected representative of the American people, when they decide who that actually is, and they advise that person and read them in and swear them in as commander-in-chief, recognizing their authority as commander-in-chief, is there any requirement that the public be made aware of what's occurred? No.
No.
The reason is because there's an ongoing potential threat.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is the president is recognized as the commander-in-chief. Then he is read in. Here's what we found. Here's what we found happened. Here's the evidence we have right now. Mm-hmm. Here's the evidence of who was involved, the nation states, the individuals, the treasonous traitors, the mechanisms. Then here's what's still in play. Here's where we're still vulnerable. Here's the rest of what we know of what the plans were to complete the takedown of America. And then the military does exactly what it's supposed to do. The generals say, and now, Mr. Commander-in-Chief, the elected representative of the people constitutionally, what do you want us to do next? The Commander-in-Chief directs the next actions. The Commander-in-Chief makes those final decisions. And what would be the objective? Continuing to protect the Constitution, the contract between the American people and their government, and the Republic, the nation of states. And then once you've protected America, you got to keep the economy going. You can't crash the economy. You'll kill millions. Mm-hmm. You don't know what the other threats are. You know, Jacob, do you remember over in Los Angeles on Wilshire Boulevard?
Oh, yeah.
February 2nd, 2018, I believe it was. We had military helicopters came in, guys, special forces rappel out of the helicopters on top of a building, and then they go inside, blow concussion grenades. Fortunately, a couple of the windows were open, let some of the pressure out so it didn't, blow anybody's eardrums out. Mm-hmm. And then blow the windows out, technically. They went glass everywhere. And then they took out two, they're really a nest bag. They're like a popcorn, Jiffy Pop popcorn bag. They're designed to help contain a small explosion. Mm-hmm. And even if it was a full-on large nuke, it would at least limit it a little bit. And we stretch this same material over all of our plants where we make the weapons to, if something happens, it lowers the radius where the material may get spread out and around. So they pulled out two nest bags, one with the radiological, one with the biological, put them in helicopters with their teams and went different directions. And then all of the troops that were there, they didn't close down the streets. They didn't tell anybody they were coming. They made no preparations in the area. Yeah, guys out there having a freaking beer fest in their porch on their condo next door, and they're taking pictures with their cell phones. You got people in their cars down the street taking pictures with their cell phone. Why? Because it wasn't a training exercise. Oh no, but it was on the local news. It was a training exercise. They said so on Channel 5. Oh, really? Okay. Well, it wasn't. And you're an idiot. No activity of that type using military forces can be used in a civilian area like that, in a training thing, unless the president personally signs off on it. Remember, we lost a chopper. They're supposedly picking up Osama bin Laden. What if one of the choppers had gone awry? There'd been a miscalculation and it careened off and went into one of those buildings full of people on Wilshire Boulevard? You think Trump wouldn't have been ran out of office, instantly because of, why would you do that when you got training bases just for that purpose? That wasn't a training exercise. And by the way, at the same time that happened, where the real training exercise was at, that everybody had been told was a training exercise, that this was supposedly part of, over at Long Beach Harbor. What happened at the same time? We had one of the largest drug busts in world history. Wow. Right there while we're doing a training exercise. Okay, well, we had all our guys there, just like the Russians were doing a training exercise over there in Ukraine. By the way, when that STRATCOM communication came out saying that don't expect a linear response, that was a warning to Putin and them commies, get your ass back. And within hours, they began withdrawing those troops, but quick. Don't let the screen door hit you on the ass on the way out. They moved those guys back because they got the warning, you're not going to play with us and we're not screwing around. And why was that? Because the guys at the top were not going to be sitting on their hands while we yielded ground there, while we're taking care of problems here inside the country. Yep. We are not decapitated. And that was a command level decision to make that warning. If we're not commanding all the forces, because just like you saw and what you heard about, there's a little disagreement in the general staff. Well, where it counts, further up the ladder, maybe there isn't as much disagreement as you think. But over there in Long Beach Harbor, when they were supposedly doing that training exercise, that wasn't a training exercise, that was cover for what they were really going to do. They went out there, did the largest drug bust in U.S. history, one of the largest in U.S. history, one of the largest in world history. And in there, they got enough fentanyl to kill every human being in Mexico, America, and Canada twice. We are under attack on multiple fronts. It's not just the vote fraud. That was just one component of a very broad attack on America. Just like what we did with the 𝐂𝐚𝐭𝐞𝐬𝐭 Russians back when we took out the Soviet Union.
So it's beautiful when I heard you talk about this before, that mission, because when I saw it, I had trained for that and had done training like that. So when I saw the Tier 1 guys, SEAL Team 6 level guys, doing that mission, I was like, that's real. That's the real deal. I don't know what these guys got going on, but that's real. And then I heard later from you, what actually went down. So that's just the kind of level, of reveal that you have. So people that are getting this,
and by the way,
amazing,
think COVID, but
right,
2 years sooner. What would have happened had a biological been released there? How would it have been released? There's a bus tunnel that goes underneath Wilshire Boulevard. That's right where the beginning of the bus tunnel is. It services all the hotels down the street for all of the staff that work at those hotels, the people come and go to all their jobs in those buildings there. So if you released a biological weapon and infected people going to work along there. They'd have gone into all those hotels, maybe have 2, 3, 5, 10 days. And all those people go get on airplanes that are staying at those hotels. I think there's 6 of them down the street there. And they go back, you know, whatever country they're coming from, because there's a lot of international travel on that specific group there. And then on top of that, after you've got everybody infected, well, what's going to happen? All of your people are going to show up that are looking to see if, you know, there's some kind of infection, CDC stuff, okay, to see what's going on. What's one of the risks you have when you go in where there's been a terrorist act or a bomber? The second one. They get all of your rescue people in there, they get all your stuff, and then they blow the real one up. That's the big one.
Cover all the evidence.
Okay,
absolutely.
And they take all your first tier personnel out. So the long and short of it is, you're looking for a biological. What happens next? They were scheduled to demolish that building 2 weeks after the guys landed there and took whatever out of there. It might have been ready to go a day or 2 or 5 later. Maybe it wasn't going the next day. And then as soon as that biologics holds out there, they're tearing down the building. All the trucks were going to show up and run right through the middle of town with all the concrete dust and debris and everything, taking it out to the landfill, driving right through the middle of LA. And what was going to be in there? Radiological. And by the way, what happens now? You thought you were only here for a biological. Now you got a radiological. Jeez. And it's covering the whole thing. You could have even detonated small something and spread it all over the area. And now nobody's coming in to look for it, because have you seen how hard it is to work in a hot zone with the suits and everything you have to do? And you're trying to do some forensic thing and figure out who was behind this. Okay. And by the way, when that all happened, first of all, it was the Guatemalan Cultural Center. But also that was the same week that El Chapo was convicted out of Mexico there. And then also the, what's his name? Altieri, whatever his name was, from an ex-IBM, Keith Raniere. And the deal with him was you had all of this political connection to the Salinas family down in Mexico. And the child trafficking, the girls, the young girls and all that related to ex-IBM and the older women, the Hollywood stars, all of that were part of that whole Hollywood component. And then you had El Chapo, which, by the way, the drugs coming up through Mexico and that whole crowd, who was facilitating that? Who's bringing in the guns and even the vehicles? Those are all out of China. China's using the drug cartels out of Mexico like a foreign legion against America. And so El Chapo, he's rolling over and stuff. Where do you think they got the information about what was coming in and how with those ships? And then at the exact same time, the stuff at the Guatemalan Cultural Center. So at the end of the day, they thought they got away with something. Hey, let me ask you this. If they didn't get away with it there, maybe we had people that were talking. And how long did it go? Maybe even though we had to play the game to a certain point just to find out the rest of what we might not know, you think it's possible that we still have some human intel people and some computer guys that ride surfboards that know enough to figure out how this stolen vote happened, can bring that evidence out. And by the way, if the people in your audience thought that these fucking piece of shit assholes who think that the election from 2020 is over and we're on to 2022 and 24, and that's all there is to it, and we're never going back, I'm here to tell you, it ain't over yet, baby. It ain't over yet.
See the reveal coming. It's beautiful.
Okay, so I got to tell you. Okay, so yesterday, I let out for sale second edition of my book, The Kid by the Side of the Road. The first edition was the Victory edition. And, well, Trump didn't win. He didn't? Well, we'll see how that goes. So let me just pop this over here. We got that right there. Okay, I see. That was you doing it, not me. So here's what the deal is. Yesterday, I put out my second edition, which is the same story, information stuff that was in the first edition, but a few different pictures from some of the fun stuff, including the call makes for perfect day and some other stuff. But it's the inaugural edition. Now, how would I have the audacity to call the second edition of my book the inaugural edition? And the first edition had a picture of President Trump on the back. The second edition is kind of, you wonder what's going on, because the second edition has a picture of Melania on the back, and she is beautiful. And I'm glad you're showing it there. Here's the one thing that's kind of interesting. That dress that Melania is wearing, that's the dress she wore when she got off of Air Force One on January 20th, while President Trump, was still president, while she was still the first lady, because they didn't stay in Washington, D.C. for the Biden inauguration ceremony and watch him present on the Bible, right? They went to Mar-a-Lago. They didn't participate in that little charade.
Mm-hmm.
And she wore this dress. Now, when ships are at sea and they need to communicate, going back to days before they even had wire, and wireless communication, things like that. Ships at sea, they use flags to send messages back and forth between the ships. And the flags individually and the combination of flags will tell the other crew, the other ship, what they wanted to know and communicate it back up the line to the, fleet commander. So Melania has been the flagpole, if you will, in these communications. And so almost invariably, whatever she wears is a message for that moment in history to everybody that's watching. So here we are on this incredible day. Think of the magnitude of the moment. It's Trump's last day in office, and he's not president anymore. Well, some people's opinion. So when she's making a statement, flying the flag, telling you everything, Michael, you've got the book. I signed one for you. And if you look, every single page in the book, in the lower right-hand or left-hand corner is the page number. And it's in orange. And above that number, every single page has a cube. And in fact, the last words in the book relate to election 2020 equals mega cubed over corn. E equals M3 square, M3 or squared over C. Einstein had the equation E equals MC squared. This is equals MC cubed. That's the election 2020. And that's what I said in the book. And that was my dream. That was all of this stuff that I talked about. Even the color, when they were doing the book, printing it, and it's out being foiled right now. Everywhere that you see orange around Melania and everywhere that's orange on the book has a beautiful reflective foil applied to it. It's beautiful, spectacular. And those will be done here in just a couple of days, and those books will start going out. And so Melania, as the last public act, as the official FLOTUS with President Trump, climbs off the plane wearing that dress with the exact color cubes, shapes, over and over and over, saying exactly what I said in my whole book. Election 2020 equals mega over corn cubed. And the corn is all these farm products, CIA, FBI. They have the farm where they train guys. And these people have been training and working against America. Brennan, Comey, treasonous traitors going over there and working with the Brits, MI6, to overturn our election. Because that's where it all started from. Go back to 2016. What happened with the dossier? Creamer out of McCain's office, Maricopa County. What did they do? They were coordinating their actions to stop Trump, the candidate, from winning the election with this lying, thieving, pissant dossier full of lies, proven to be lies over and over, because it's the fucking Brits, MI5 and MI6 working with treasonous traitors here in America.
Exactly.
To overturn the will of the people, the contract with the people, the Constitution of the United States, the contract with the American people to have a representative government that has authority over them. But how can it be representative if they steal the vote with lies, when they put documents and players and everything in there that's lying? And now you're not getting a person that's representative of the American people in office. You're getting their scamming group, putting their puppet in play to do their will against America, their way. Not a representative of the American people. That's what's going on here. And so our military is in the middle of another revolutionary war with the fucking Brits. And by the way, just like George Washington had one of his most trusted generals, many said it was his most trusted general, betrayed him and went over to the Brit side. Okay. And so what do we have? Do we have some generals running America that, are we going to have some traitors here? Are we going to find that we had people in office in our government that were sold out to these globalists overseas to run America? President Trump sent a flag signal to the citizens of America. This isn't over. Election 2020 is still in play. Election 2020 equals mega cubed over corn. And thank God he ran that flag up the mast. Those of us that are watching saw it. This isn't over. Enjoy the show. 5 by 5.
Masterfully done. So, a lot of people have been confused, and I've been trying to help them, see that the military is still in charge and the military is still operational. So this is unprecedented, what you did today. So I think people are going to come back to this and look at this over and over again. Share this far and wide. Now your links that I kind of revealed there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have those in the description box and also over on Rumble and BitChute.
Well, let me just mention too, the Rumble. That's the best place to go watch the movie, The Called, The Makings for a Perfect Day. If you've got people that haven't seen that, I think it's amazing. Jennifer Mack did this just amazing job on that movie, and people will just never know how hard she worked on that. It was the editing. I don't know anybody else that could have done it. I spoke during it, but the real mastery there was the way she pulled all those pieces together. Yeah. So we all were a debt. And I get people telling me all the time, I've watched it 5, 6, 10 times. I just love listening to music, So she did a great job over there.
Yeah, she is so beautiful. Such a sweet and gentle soul too. Very nice.
Yeah. And then on the book, we did have some mischief that was played in the first one. We've covered, I think, everybody's got their book. There's still probably several dozen that we're trying to get sorted out. And but I've got first editions that I held back aside, make sure I got every single person got their book. That's why I held off on the second edition until we felt we had it solved. And we have now every order goes out with a tracking code, so we can track it all the way through till it gets right in that person's hands. So I appreciate everybody that fought through that with us, and we got that solved. And they actually had to create a new way of doing it for our particular thing. And so once they had that in place, it was totally locked in. And these will go out very quickly. The first of them will ship in just about 5 days. As soon as they come back from where they're having this foil put on them. And there was people that were making copies on the Xeroxes and sending them out, and so they're originals, and they were all over online, and which is fine. I mean, it's a compliment that they want to do that, but be a little more difficult with these because they're have this on it. And then the next book, we're just working now on the rest of that, and it's all new content. And the next one will be out shortly to replace this one, and that's The Storm.
Nice. No, I sat by and had dinner with a guy that works with you on that, and he is amazing. You guys are quite a team together. Oh.
Yeah, he's very good. If I didn't have a good editor, man, it would not be the same as what we got.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he did amazing work. He was a real gift, literally from God, as far as I'm concerned. We're on a divine mission. You and I. That's one of the things people think this is all just, us having fun or whatever. Look, the whole world's on the line here. Everything's at stake. In fact, I'm picking up 𝐂𝐸𝐕𝐈𝐍 here in a couple of days.
Nice.
And
great man.
We're in this last phase. We're trying to lock in our marketing money for the movie The Sound of Freedom that you came down to Vegas and watched with a lot of the other influencers. And I'm hoping to have that. No, that was it's an amazing movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the reality is, we got a whole world. There's more slavery in the world today than ever before in human history. Now, part of that's because we have a bigger population, but there's this component that's just hard to get your mind around, that there's more slavery today than ever before in human history. But think about it. There in Libya, they weren't having slave bazaars for all the way from 1967 until just a few years ago in 2013. And all of a sudden, as soon as Gaddafi's out, I mean, literally, he's out, and the crowd that comes in, this Muslim Brotherhood crowd, and they got slave bazaars going, and they're stealing kids all over North Africa, shipping them up to Qatar and to other places, kids coming out of Asia, all over South America, and they're being traded like trading cards and worse. And so here in our lifetime, people talk, the first, Revolutionary War with England, that didn't really quite go away. They were in there doing mischief with us all the way up through when we had the Civil War, and it was over, slavery in part. It was really a banking thing primarily, and getting the states and commerce and all that thing with the fucking Brits again, 1812 war and on and on. They've been doing mischief all along, and they're doing it again.
Oh, yeah.
And so even here now, we're having a similar issue. We thought we had slavery, taken care of. Well, maybe it was black and white then, although, by the way, the largest slave owner in South Carolina was black coming into the Civil War. I spent time with one of his great grandsons here the other day. He's a great guy, and he's got and he's a Confederate, and actually a very interesting guy, got a great history. It isn't necessarily even a race issue at any level. It's not a black-white thing. There's a lot of whites that were slaves back at the time of Civil War. People want to be in denial of that, not just here in America, but all over the world. But this era now, it's even beyond just human slavery. It's in large measure, it's children. And that's, there's small hearts, small hands praying moment to moment every day, please God, please.
Yeah.
And if you're not touched by that, if you don't hear that, if you can't hear that, if your heart's that hard that you can allow slavery in our generation, especially these small children, and worse, then maybe there isn't a place for you in this world. We cannot tolerate that this goes on in our lifetime, in our world. God gave this world to Adam and his seed, and it's ours. And we are supposed to manage it, to do with it according to, this divine understanding that we have, this divine contract. And when Adam was in the garden, he wasn't there just walking around eating the fruit, whatever's going on. No, he was supposed to tend the garden, to manicure the garden, to grow the garden, to make it, ornament, to give it order. It wasn't just chaotic. He was there as the groundskeeper. And we're still the groundskeeper on this planet ourselves. And in corners of this planet, the horrors are beyond comprehension. And where the most child pornography and trafficking is in the whole world is right here in America.
Right in America, yeah.
So Jim and I are on a mission. It's a mission from God to get this done in this particular phase that we have in the movie, get it out for fall release, get the second movie in production. The script's nearly done, and it's even more compelling than this one. And get it out there in the general audiences, and then folks like you and some of the other hosts like that have seen it can talk authoritatively, and we get this thing under control. So, it's we live in an amazing moment because people for generations, eons, have prayed to be in a time when you could get some of this evil off the planet and, stop it. And we have the means, the mechanisms. We're not at the mercy of these evil people. We're the ones with the power. And they can try to cook the vote and cook the way we do things and convince people electronically with all their electronic frauds that they're in control. But the reality is there's more of us by many orders of magnitude than there are of them.
Absolutely.
Or their brainwashed masses. We're going to go get our country back. We're going to get our country sorted out, our own house in order, and then we're going out and help the rest of the world, not to be the rest of the world's masters, but to be the rest of the world's brothers. We're not our brother's keeper. We're our brother's brother, and we're going to do it. And that's the way it is. And they're not stopping us.
That's beautiful. And that's a great way to end it. You always put out some great information. I could talk on and on. I have so many things to, that I like to go into, but your time, you put out the perfect thing for the military. I love that you come in because I was a former military guy and that's like use my platform. And I love that to really reach the military guys. Hopefully those guys, maybe there's few still, I never know. They're still on the fence. They see this and it's a done deal. And everyone else that's still doubting, you should never doubt after seeing this. It's absolutely amazing. Thank you.
Hey, bro, I appreciate it tremendously. I appreciate your audience as we come in. I know I go a little slower sometimes than they want, but I think you have to think about where we're at, what's going on. I'm hoping people slow down and did that. And I thank everybody here for allowing me that luxury.
Absolutely.
I think it's important. And pray for those little hearts and those little hands that are praying for us to show up, that they'll hang on a little longer, and let's go get them. Let's help them.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Juan.
Thanks, Michael.